We start a new sermon series this Sunday. And to me, it's a real downer. You come off this great Easter Sunday where we celebrate the great rising of Christ, and because of his love for us, this absurdity that we live with, meaning even though we deserved it, even though we deserved punishment, even though we deserved worse, God out of his love came and saved us from our sin. He freed us from the bondage of death so that we would live with him forever. This great joyous celebration of Easter now follows with a long sermon series on what the Bible says. And we start off this great series and following Easter with anger. From love to anger. I suppose they're both strong feelings, aren't they? And so we're going to take a look at anger today. Now I have to say that getting angry is very easy nowadays. I hardly go a week without getting upset about 3 or 4 things, right? I mean, it's kind of funny that God always provides this. I think we have a very ironic relationship as well. And there's a lot of humor and irony. I was coming here and thinking about different things we get angry about, and it just so happened I was following a Sanford & Son truck loaded with junk, and there was stuff flying out of the back. There was garbage flying out of the back. Now I'm on the interstate trying to, meditate and pray to God and get ready for this morning on anger, and I'm following a gentleman on the interstate driving 38, trying to keep his garbage in the back of his truck wherever he was going, and the stuff was falling on my windshield. Luckily it was dry and just kind of went off, and I'm starting to get upset. A little bit frustrated, a little bit angry, who is this clown? This isn't a parade. And don't you realize there's actually a posted requirement to go at least 45 miles an hour. So, I'm driving by looking at this fella, and then the anger starts to come. No, not a big anger, but enough. Kind of pokes and jabs at me. And then I start to thinking about the other items that might rile us up. We're living in a down economy. There's no kidding that we have to pull up and pull tight the belt. Change how we live. Go by the gas stations. I get angry every time I see $3.89. Give me a break. I think about the jobs that have been lost. I think about careers that have been changed and affected by what's going on with some of the corporate greed that's out there. I think about customer no service departments that I've had to deal with last week when my camera broke. I think about all of the other wonderful anger things that seem to kind of jump out at us. They are painful, and those feelings are very real. So what does the Bible say? Are there any good reasons to be angry? Is the feeling of anger a sin? What about this anger? Does God feel anger? Did his prophets feel anger? When you look through the Bible, we find many references to anger. We know of Moses. Moses was constantly, perpetually angry at the Israelites. Whining and whining. You brought us out here to die. Why did you bring us out here to die in the desert, as he leads them out of Egypt into the promised land? And on one occurrence, they're like, why did you lead us out here to die of thirst? Why did you lead us out here to die? And so Moses goes to God and says, these people are thirsty. And so God says, I will deliver them. Take your staff, wave it over these rocks, and water will spring forth. Well, Moses, out of his anger, took his staff, walked over there, and just went whack right on the rocks and hit them. The water came out, and because of his outburst of anger, he was not allowed into the promised land. Anger's out there. We read it in the prophets as well. I think we're having a study on Jonah somewhere around here in this building. Jonah was angry. He even had to deliver the message to these people. Let them rot. Let them die. Those are our enemies. We see anger in our prophets. And could Jesus feel angry? On one occasion, he walked into the temple, saw what was being done, people selling off certain items, people exchanging money, making profits inside the temple, and Jesus got angry and flipped some tables. So anger is in the Bible. It is in our world. It is in our lives. And so it would be very important for us to learn how we are to handle anger, what God teaches us about anger, whether there is any good anger to begin with, and of course, to understand how we can honor God with our lives when we understand how to handle it, how to handle anger. So let's start off with what's really worth getting angry over. Now, anger is an emotion. We all have emotions. I remember one of my friends in jest said about love, that love is a feeling, and feelings are only good for lovemaking and cattle. You need to stay focused, John, as this is business. I was being trained in human resource. And if you ever watched The Office, a television show, the boss always jokes that human resource creates heartless monsters. They go out and just follow policy and don't care about feelings. Just do what I tell you to do. Well, we all have feelings. Whether we are controlled by them or not, feelings are not a sin. Feelings are just the beginning of a temptation. Feelings are there to show us that something is wrong or that something is right. Something is either wrong inside of us or wrong with the world around us. But feelings were put inside of us from the very beginning. And we found out just with the intro that many people feel and even feel anger. So anger itself is a feeling that we have. It's what comes from anger that gets us in trouble, how we handle it. You know, much of what gets us worked up really aren't the big things. You know, they really aren't the big stuff. They're all these little things that just kind of build and grind on us. The little pokes and jabs throughout the day, those irritants. I'm tired of dealing with customer no service departments. I'm just tired of it. And so as soon as I call them up, my expectations are low and I get angry almost immediately. Those ego-bruising jabs at work or when you do something. Oh, I would have done it better. I wish they would have done it this way. Boy, you know, if they would have let me do it, boy, that was a horrible job. Those little jabs, the little nuances where you get that evil look from the wife. You get that look from the boss. You walk down the hallway and your friend doesn't even acknowledge you. Just the little bitty things seem to grate on us all day long, and it really starts to build inside of us. And then anger turns to hatred. Anger turns to so many other types of sins that lead us astray. So, if we're not careful, they will pile up. The insults and everything else until we are ready to explode. And if we're not careful, we can say or do something we're sorry for later. So what does God give us? Counsel. What's the great instruction of God toward these aggravations? Well, one thing for sure, they will never stop. There will always be people to annoy you. There will always be stupid things done and said. And so anger will be just a part of our lives. So how do we handle them? Psalm 37:7. Be still before the Lord and wait patiently for Him. Do not fret when men succeed in their ways, usually evil against us, when they carry out their wicked schemes. Be patient. There's nothing like a good night's sleep when you're angry. Now, you've heard Paul say, never let the sun go down while you're angry. And I'd like to add a little to that. Once the sun does go down, nothing's going to be solved. Get a good night's sleep. When the sun comes back up, go at it again. Patience. Patience is how God prescribes against anger. Echoing this psalm is a proverb. Do not say, I'll pay you back for this wrong. Wait for the Lord. He will deliver you. We are to be patient with others. And in this proverb, we get a hint that something bigger is going on. These annoyances, even though they're frustrating, God is in control. If we truly believe that, we can wait for Him to work. We don't need to jump in thinking God's kind of taking the day off when people offend us, when the world and the evil seems to be around us and anger starts to swell. We need to have patience. Patience. God is in care of us now. Now, there are a couple of kinds of anger, but distinguishing between petty trifles and serious injustice can be difficult, especially when we're the ones being offended, when we're the ones that are the victims, so to speak. We can blow things way out of proportion. But God again tells us in Romans 12, be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, faithful in prayer. When we have the world upon us, we are to be patient in our afflictions. Afflictions happen. It's part of our world. We are to pray to God that He will bring justice, that He will handle it mightily. But patience is not part of our natural reaction, is it? I remember growing up with my brother. I had a younger brother. And we had a no-head rule. You know, we could punch each other and kind of goof around, but no one hit the head. If you hit the head, you got smacked right back. All right, I don't know if any of you had that same rule or not, but I see lots of smiles. Don't touch the head. So that's our reaction, right? When we're offended, when injustice has happened, we want to snap back. Smack me, I'll smack you. But God says, hold off. How about revenge? Or holding a grudge? Or shock when God doesn't immediately zap some other person with a lightning bolt. Anger can hold us and trap us. And we soon learn that we are living under the weaknesses of others. We are trapped by it as anger controls our life. But God calls us to be patient, to grow a thicker skin so these insults bounce off a little easier. We hear so much today about our rights, but as Paul says on many occasions, even though I have the right, I lay down my liberty for the sake of the good of the body. I know God will take care of this. And so patience is what God has called. But what if we don't act in patience? I'm sure we've done that before. God's Word cautions us over and over again about the consequences of acting in anger in the improper way. Have you ever done anything that you did in anger you wish you could take back? There were a few emails in my youth that I wish I could have swallowed up. There are probably a few text messages that my kids sent that they're sorry they did. I'm sure there are a few voicemails you wish you could have deleted and retrieved. A few phone calls you wish you would not have made. And then you hope you still have your job. You still hope you have your friend, or you haven't been kicked out of the family in an outburst over Easter, over dinner, or what happens afterwards. We do react. Proverbs 14:17 says, a quick-tempered man does foolish things. Now that we do. It doesn't say woman, but I think it's both. When we react to our anger and just smack right back, usually we regret it. So God calls for us to have patience and to respond to this feeling when we're in better control.